Female teenager trafficked by relatives. Chief Secretary challenges departmental heads. Police trained to deal with people living with disabilities.
This is NBC Papua New Guinea National News.
Good evening, I'm Jerry Tave. A policewoman, a village court official, and a senior female welfare officer in Morobe province are currently facing the court for protecting a teenage girl in a sexual assault case involving an Asian businessman when they allegedly disobeyed a court order instructing her release from a safe house in Lae. The expatriate's lawyer sought the order after the Lae District Court dismissed a sexual penetration case against the elderly Asian and two others on charges of sexual penetration made last month due to lack of evidence. According to police, the 16-year-old, after learning upon her impending release, refused to leave the custody of the state and turned to the law for protection. Last week, the expatriate's lawyer obtained a court warrant for the arrest of the three for breaching the court order, and they will be appearing at the Lae District Court next Tuesday. Morobe Provincial Police Commander Superintendent Augustine Wampe, while not condoning the behavior of the three, appealed for understanding behind the decision taken by them as agents of the law and to serve and protect lives when called upon by the victim. Charles Kekeng reports from Lae.
The policewoman detective, along with a senior female welfare officer and a male village court clerk of Salamoy LLG, were alleged to have breached a court order instructing the release of a 16-year-old girl in a sexual assault case from protective custody into the custody of her parents. The case had involved a Malaysian businessman and two relatives of the victim, each on charges of sexual penetration, which was dismissed by the Lae District Court mid last month due to lack of evidence. A lawyer from the Office of the Public Solicitor is representing the Asian in his mid-50s and last week obtained a court warrant for the arrest of the three people for the breach.
The matter was investigated and apprehended.
Morobe Provincial Police Commander Chief Superintendent Augustine Wampe is calling on for understanding to prevail between both parties while the matter is deliberated in the court.
The victims refused. And what can the policewoman?
He stressed that this was a case where the victim is worried about her rights and future and turned to the law for protection.
She doesn't want to go back to the family because and go back by all abusing men, all fighting men, kicking men, or throwing men go back to the Asian men. No. So that's why I said, no, me must stop back to a safe house here to protect myself. That's exactly what happened.
Mr. Wampe also notes sexual abuses and trafficking of children involving foreigners is common occurrence in the country and warned expatriates that PNG has tough laws and police will not hesitate to execute upon complaints received.
In the country, you come in for a purpose for running a business, you have to run a business. Not to come in and do all kinds of things that, abuse our laws.
The PPC also has a warning to parents and relatives of underage children involved in trafficking of the offspring for money and promises of material goods.
They're supposed to support the biological father and mother. These are your these are your children, and you have to protect them from being harmed or being abused by people.
Meantime, the victim, who has a baby from the Asian, is currently at a safe house in the city while awaiting outcome of the court, which the policewoman and the other two will be appearing next week. Charles Kekeng, NBC National News, Lae.
Government Chief Secretary Isaac Lupari has reminded all departmental heads to wisely use whatever means they have within their constraints to get jobs done precisely. He said this during the fourth meeting held at the Igam Army Barracks in Lae, Morobe Province. Chief Secretary made this call following numerous claims from various departments that exceeded their budgets to carry out their tasks. Shalom Alkan reports.
Mr. Lupari said often claims substitute many things that were not necessary, stating that these could have been easily identified However, plain ignorance has resulted in overspending and costing government millions of kina every year.
So as managers, we need to be proactive, smart in our thinking. 2016 budget has been revised down, as you saw from the projections, down by another almost 2 billion. It's cut. All of us are cut. That's why I said there's a calling. It's about taking ownership of the issues that confront us today.
He said these problems have now been looked at very closely, and he believes all departmental heads can save and put this money into implementing key government policies and programs. Meanwhile, changes will take place in the departments once the public service reform list is completed.
The Secretary and Public Service, myself, we're working on a public service reform list. It will be part of 2017 budget. We are recommending, alignment of many of the functions, restructure. Many of us will be affected, but doesn't mean that we will displace you. We look for a job for you. We have to make that call. We have to make that call for us. Public service needs many of you because we are thinly spread out. We lack the capacity. Too many young kids coming up too fast in the highway, and they're lost themselves. So we will bring this program on, part of our budget discussion. We will discuss it in our next department works meeting.
The Chief Secretary said he was pleased in hosting the meeting out of Port Moresby, as it gave the heads the opportunity to see real changes faced by the public servants in outer stations, as well as the daily lives of the people. Sheila Malkin, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
The Police Training College has now taken on the agenda of disability to ensure officers understand the issues faced by persons with disability. College Training Commandant Chief Superintendent Pero Drano said the force will now be looking at designing a training program to train officers on how to deal with them, whether as a complaint or as a suspect. It said there's doing an awareness conducted on Friday by the National Association of Persons with Disability at the college. The challenge is how do police address and deal with persons with disability. Again, Sheila Malkin reports.
Persons with disability have a right to access justice. They have a right to lay a complaint. They have a right to even report anything that is, unlawful.
The awareness program aimed at assisting these officers on how to address and deal with issues faced by persons with disabilities. A few minutes drive out of the city, the members of the National Association of Persons with Disability arrived at the college. It was an amazing and sad experience for some, as there are no proper facility at the college. Recently, sign language has been authorized by the government as the national fourth language in the country, and it is now a challenge for the Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary.
That is our drive now. As Police Training College, we need to train policemen who can read sign language.
Drano hopes to maintain this partnership.
We can have police service that is also can provide fair services to people with disabilities.
Chairman Ben Theodore, who is also a former police officer, said it is important for the officers to know the rights for everyone regardless of their status.
You and me, we are part of this. We are citizens of this nation, and we need to deliver services to everyone. All right? Color to all, whether persons with disabilities or not, everyone deserves the right for a fair service that we deliver as government officers.
The event was attended by officers from the Department of Community Development, Health Department, PNG Assemblies of Disabled Persons, and National Board for Disabled Persons. Sheila Malkin, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
Department of Community Development Assistant Secretary Peter Simbakua says more champions are needed to take on board the agenda of disability. He made this statement during the recent visit of the National Association of Persons with Disability to the Police Training College. The Royal Papua New Guinea Constabulary has now come on board to address the agenda. Mr. Simbakua said the challenge is now to have a specific and proper guideline in place to address this, adding that a significant part of the country's population are persons living with some forms of impairments.
You will find that in the population that you discharge your constitutional duty as police officers, you will find that maybe 1 or 3 or 5 out of the cases that you will come across will involve a person with disability as a complainant or a person who can be deemed as suspect. So this is very, very important when you are discharging your obligation, your duty as a service to the population. So we are seeing you now coming out as one of those champions who would be advocating for the rights of persons with disability in your jurisdiction when you're discharging your duties.
The government has expressed grave concern over sudden and unknown amendments made to a water use permit currently held by Newcrest Mining Limited, operator of the Lihir Gold Mine on Aniolom Island, New Island Province. In a letter dated August 23, 2016, Chief Secretary Isaac Lupari wrote to the Conservation and Environment Protection Authority Managing Director Gantha Joku, wanted to know why there were sudden and unknown amendments to the water use permit that allows LGL to extract 4,400 cubic meters of water per hour instead of the permitted rate of 3,800 cubic meters per hour. According to SEPA records, these amendments were fixed on September 26, 2014, months after the Londolovit community instigated an environmental audit or investigation. The Chief Secretary said the Londolovit people, who are traditional owners of Londolovit River, where the mine extracts water for its operations, have lodged a complaint at his office and are claiming 113 million kina in compensation for water extracted over and above permitted rates. This has had consequential negative impacts on the livelihood of the people and ecological environment. Environment permit requires that a minimum flow level of 200 litres per second be maintained at the Londolovit River well. The Environment Audit Report confirms and identifies instances of breach of low-flow compliance from April 2000 to April 2015 that shows less than 200 litres per second. Coming up after the break, Talasay High School receives new vehicle from the West New Britain Governor and a technical team from the Conservation and Environment Protection Authority to visit the mine-impacted community of Londolovit on Lihir Island. Stay with us on NBC National News.